Welcome, everybody. Brother Dan Goodwin here. You're watching, of course, Prophecy in the News TV. We're glad you're here. I have in the studio with me my good friend and a scholar in his own right, Brother Phil Hauser. Brother Phil, good to see you here.
God bless you, brother.
It's nice to get you out of Tennessee for a little while. Of course, you're a world traveler. You travel all over the place.
Around.
And we're going to talk about your new CD that my ministry produced for you. God's Final Jubilee Ministries presents a study of the Revelation by Phil Hauser. I am not on this. Phil Hauser did this, and my good friend, and I loved it so much when I heard it that I said that needs to be out there. And so my ministry produced this, and we are tickled to death to have this information. And we're going to talk about this on the program. We're going to talk about the book of Revelation and the things that are in Revelation. And you bring out some amazing things, little tidbits that you just don't hear most places.
Amen.
And I love it. So, but before we get to that, let's hear a little bit about who Phil Hauser is. Tell the audience who you are and where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Watauga, Tennessee, and I'm the assistant pastor at my father's church, Fellowship Community Church in Watauga. And I own a construction company, and I own a security company, and I do church security and personal protection for pastors that travel around the world.
And you've done some security for some big name guys. I don't know if you want to, maybe we don't want to mention them on the program, but he's done some people, some big name guys that the folks would know who they are. So, and you've gotten around, and it's been interesting to watch you. Of course, you and I, we met at the Southwest Radio Prophecy Conference in Gettysburg. I was speaking at it.
Yes, sir.
And I looked out and saw this ugly guy sitting next to this beautiful woman.
That's right.
And I thought it was your daughter, and it was your wife.
Of course.
And we joke about that, of course. But we are. I don't think I have I think you're probably one of the 2 or 3 greatest friends that I have in my life. And
Amen.
I'm not bashful to say that. But I didn't bring you here because you're a friend. I brought you here because you've got something that I think the audience could use. And we're going to talk about, but you mentioned that you do security. So let's talk about security just for a couple minutes here before we get into Revelation.
Sure.
Because I think this is something else that's important for the audience to know about. I think churches need to get prepared. I mean, almost every week there's a shooting somewhere. Sometimes it's a church or a synagogue or some kind of big public event. You actually do meetings with me. You do security for some of my meetings. You're going to be preaching at some of our meetings in the near future. And but what we started doing with you recently is we had you teach some churches that we did prophecy conferences at. You actually met with the men.
That's right.
And taught them some things about security. Tell the audience a little bit about what you could do for their church. For instance, if you're a pastor out there, or you have a youth group, or you have a Bible study, or in other words, if you lead a public meeting somewhere, let me tell you something. You need to get serious about security. And I'm telling you, a lot of people don't understand the seriousness of it, and they don't realize in that split second when it happens at your church. You gotta know what to do. Those first minutes, Brother Phil, I know you teach the first couple minutes is crucial when it begins. So tell the audience out there, maybe there's a pastor, or maybe there's somebody you want to tell your pastor about him. In just a couple of minutes, what would you say to convince somebody that they need to bring in somebody like you? They don't have to bring you in, but they need somebody to come in and teach them some security tips.
Sure. Well, if you have a meeting, you are by law responsible financially. There's liabilities. If you have an in-air, open-air meeting, you are the one responsible for some type of security. You have to have something in the law's eyes, or you can be liable.
In other words, if something happens at a meeting that I hold, and I set it up, and I invite the public in. If something happens in there and I haven't provided some sort of security, I could be held liable.
Even for Sunday morning church. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
You're having a meeting and you're responsible for some. It's just like ice on the steps. Yeah. You need to throw salt. You need to put a sign up.
You can't stop someone from slipping, but you've got to at least put the salt down.
You have to put forth an effort, and we do a security assessment. We go over weak points, strong points. Go over how many in a team. Just different avenues, different scenarios. Just there's a lot to it. There's lethal, less than lethal, visual deterrence. There's just all kinds of things that people don't really think of.
And I sat into a couple of the sessions that you did at the churches we were at, and I've been around guns all my life. I feel like I'm pretty up on this stuff, but I'm telling you, when I listened to you, I felt like I didn't know a whole lot. I thought, man, this guy knows more than I realized. There's more to know than you realize.
Gun is the last. That's the last. If he has a firearm, then you're at liberty legally to counteract that with the firearm. But we try to go a lot other than that, less than lethal.
So they need
verbal,
pepper spray. They need a baton. They need what do you call the thing?
Taser.
The taser type stuff. Yeah. If the guy's got a gun, like you say, you're going to have to use a gun. But if you don't have a gun and you use a gun, you'll
be standing in court. Yeah.
So you got some amazing stuff. You're licensed?
Yes, I'm an officer. I'm a private protection officer for the state of Tennessee.
Okay, so, but they don't have to be licensed to be a security person in a church.
No, they don't. No, they don't. They just have to have. You need to write it down, the bylaws. That's the main thing, and to have the people designated. They know their jobs. Like I said in my class, if you have some females there or whatever, at my church we have designated 911 callers even.
So when something happens, there's certain people in your church. The first thing they do when they get on the floor,
the security guys aren't reaching for their phones. They're doing the security work, and we have other people, and another person goes downstairs and takes care of the youth, and they have an emergency exit plan.
So everybody in the team, as well as unarmed people, there's people who have a job to do.
That's exactly right.
The moment there's a threat or an emergency.
Yep. Different people in security have different primaries. Like the pastor would be a primary asset, because 8 times out of 10 he is the target.
They're coming for the pastor.
He has said something.
They're coming for you, Doc.
Well, that's just how it is. Yeah. And there's a lot to it, and it's a lot of
Well, I think it's important, and I want to recommend to the folks out there, because I know this guy, and I know ex-Marine, right?
Hoorah.
Jarhead. Ooga. And if we joke about, I was in the Navy, we joked about these guys when I was in the Navy. We said it took 3 Marines to handle 1 Navy guy, and now we were lying. These guys are tough, and Brother Phil's tough. Now he's a godly man.
Amen.
But don't get on the wrong side of Phil in a gun battle or something like that. So I've been to his house. Anyway, we won't share all those details, but listen, I want to suggest, if you're a pastor or if you have a pastor you want to tell about this man right here, I would highly recommend Brother Phil if you wanted to bring him in, maybe train some of your men for security, and I promise you he'd be a big help. And if you want to get a hold of him, just go to my website, godsfoundjubilee.com, and contact me, and I'll get you in touch with Brother Phil here. And by the way, he's not going to soak your church for a bunch of money. You just get him there, give him a love offering. He would love to come and help your church, and he would be an asset. All right, with that aside, so you live in Tennessee, you've grown up there, and security work, you're a roofer. I know you do roofing, and you do just about everything. So, but you're also a preacher, and you're a man of God, and you've done a tremendous job on this book of Revelation. I want to read a verse for the audience out there. In the book of Revelation, verse 1, chapter 1, verse 1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass, and he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John.
Amen.
Then I want to skip down to verse 3. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand.
That's right.
Now this verse gives a blessing that no other book in the Bible gives, right?
That's right. It has the opposite too, brother.
A curse.
At the end of it has a curse.
Yeah. Okay.
A warning.
So we're going to talk about this blessed book, and this book that you're blessed if you read. And of course, a lot of people tend to, for some reason, stay away from Revelation. Either they're scared of it or they don't understand it. This man's going to help you with that. So we're going to talk about Revelation, and these are on his 3 CDs here. And so let me, I'm going to just ask you to comment on some things, Brother Phil.
Sure.
Revelation 1:7 Every eye shall see him. Just briefly, there's something about
Yeah.
that verse.
Yeah. Well, that is a statement that is the very opposite of a thief in the night. There is no way those two can be the same event.
Okay, so you're a pre-trib, I'm gathering.
That's what I get out of the Bible,
You're
brother. I
right,
don't know how to get around that.
That's what I get out of her
I mean,
too.
I'm
so
open. I've opened my mind, and that's what the Bible speaks to me.
That's all that matters. What
Yeah.
what does the Bible say?
Amen.
So, Revelation 1:7, every eye shall see him, and that's obviously a reference to Revelation 19 when he comes on the white horse,
Yes,
comes to the
that's
battle
the
of
second
Armageddon.
coming. It has to be.
And
yeah.
but he comes secretly before that
Yeah.
as a thief in the night. All right, I want you to talk about Revelation 1 verse 14. I'm going to read that for the audience because this is interesting, and this is something that I hadn't thought of. Where it says his head and his hairs were white like wool. I want the audience to notice the wording there. This doesn't say Jesus had white hair. This says he had hair white like wool. See, it's symbolic. And then it says, as white as snow, and his eyes were a flame of fire. Tell us about the white hair and what that had to do with some things.
Yeah, well, in the olden times and even today in Europe, if you watch television or been over there and you'll go on a court scene, the judge still has that white wig on. That's the judge's sign. You know,
Okay.
it's carried down all the way through the 1,000 or 2,000
So you're
years.
saying back in the 17 and 1800s, we see the old TV shows,
Yeah.
and they're in a courtroom, and the judges have them white wigs on.
Yeah.
And I think even in Parliament they might
they
do some
they
of that.
still do today.
So you're saying
Yes.
that's a reference to this that
That's
goes to
carried all the way down.
meaning what?
Yes, sir.
What's the significance of that?
He is a righteous judge.
A righteous judge.
He is not partial. It says his eyes are a flame of fire. He sees. That's the only courtroom where every fact will be known, brother.
Wow. And of course Great Britain was using that as
Yes.
putting the wig on, like I don't stand here as John Smith. I am now
That's
the
right.
righteous judge.
The righteous judge.
That's
Yes, sir.
interesting. Right there in the beginning here. I mean, this is stuff you just don't hear this kind of stuff too often, I don't think. Let's see. Revelation 3:10. Thou hast kept my word. Let me see. Let me turn to that. Revelation 3:10. And we're just going to skip around
Sure.
here and pick some highlights to share with the folks. And it's a verse by verse, right? You actually read every verse.
Every
of the
verse
book
in
of
Revelation. Yes, sir.
And you comment on most of them, but you don't comment a lot on some of them. But
Probably 50% or more. We stop and break down.
yeah, I don't know how you did it, brother. I joke with him. I said I couldn't get through my introduction in the time he got through a couple of chapters. So, but Revelation 3:10. You had something here. I'm going to read that. Because thou hast kept my word, the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation.
Which will come on all the world, it says.
I didn't read the rest of it there.
Yeah.
Which will come upon all the world
All
to
the
try
world.
them that dwell upon the earth.
So there's going to be a time of testing that comes upon the entire globe.
And this is, of
That
course, during the tribulation.
That is what Revelation is talking about, chapter 6. So that's talking to the churches.
right.
Revelation 1, 2, and 3 is talking to the churches. God said, keep my word, and I will keep you from that time of testing, which is coming up in chapter 6.
Yes.
So
Chapter 6 to chapter 19 is basically
Yes.
the tribulation
that's
period.
exactly what it says.
And boy, that's all right. So you've got in chapter 3 again, verse 14, and unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and the true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. And I already know this, but you agree with me that the seven churches represent something.
Yeah, they are actually addresses at that time. John's mailing letters, but they also have a meaning to us now. That is the different church ages. The last one is the Laodicean church. We were talking about that last night. We're rich. We're in need of nothing. That is what shape the Church of America is in today. There is no conviction. There is no shame. There's ecumenicalism. And if you don't have conviction, you won't have repentance.
Now, this is interesting, and you just brought this up. I mean, we talked about this last night, you and I. The church of the Laodiceans is the final church that exists at the rapture.
Yes.
The church at Ephesus is the first of the seven churches
That's right.
mentioned. This is Revelation 2 and 3. Ephesus is the first church. That would be during what we call the apostolic age, the age of the apostles.
Yes.
And then you got the other ones, Smyrna and Pergamos, Thyatira, all them, and then you got Philadelphia, and the final one is Laodicea that we're talking about here. Now, there's some interesting wording here, and you bring this out also. See if I can find it. The Lord says you're lukewarm, you're neither cold nor hot. I will spew thee out of my mouth. He's going to vomit the church out of his mouth because they're so detestable. And he's talking about us. He's talking about our generation. Then he says in verse 17, and I'll let you comment on this, because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing and knowest not. And let's stop right there. Let's just deal with the first part.
Yeah.
What you talk about that.
Richest country in the world. Increased with goods. I'm rich. I need nothing.
And I like how he worded it, because thou sayest. The Lord is saying, this is what you describe yourself as.
Yeah. The
so
selfie
the Lord
generation.
is looking down,
yes.
and he's looking at church leaders and people today in the Laodicean church age. And he sees us looking ourselves in the mirror, so to speak.
That's right.
I'm something. I'm reaching the world. We're printing Bibles. We're doing all this. We're so great. Yeah. And the Lord says, because thou sayest, I am rich, I'm increased with goods, I have need of nothing. Then he says, but I know.
You are poor.
And knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. It's 5 things there. I rattled them all. Wretched, poor, blind, naked. I missed one. Wretched, miserable. We're miserable. Yeah. And that's how God describes us. Yeah. We don't describe ourselves that way.
Well, the lukewarm, he says he would rather have you saved or lost than lukewarm. He doesn't want you to say, oh, I go to so-and-so a church, and then live like the world and destroy your testimony and take people to hell with you because of your broken testimony. Yeah. Either be for God or against God. Don't say, I believe in God, so what?
Yeah. So this is amazing. And, of course, knowest not that thou art wretched, miserable, poor, and blind, and naked. I think the reason we look at ourselves as if we're great and we don't see ourselves the way God sees us, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, if we really don't meditate on this book.
That's right.
We don't get the Word of God. And, the Bible is like a mirror. And when you read the Bible, it shows, you see yourself in it. And to be honest, a lot of times we don't like what we see because it tells us the truth about us. And so we'd rather not read it and think good about ourselves, but God describes this end times church here. Well, let me tell the folks how they can get a copy of this CD, and then we're going to continue on here. On the screen, there should be a phone number. You can call that number during regular business hours and talk to Sister Carol. She'll set you up with your order. And or you can go to the website. You can order with your credit card online. We're also offering my Revelation study guide, if you can see that. Rex will probably put it up on the screen for you. But I have a 87-page study guide. Now, my study guide's a little different than yours, Brother Phil. You do a verse by verse. And there's a lot in yours that's not in mine. What I did is a chapter-by-chapter study where I give a theme for each chapter.
That's right, yeah.
And I've preached some of this at your church.
Yes, you have.
And for instance, chapter 4, the theme for chapter 4 is the rapture. And I give I give a summary of the chapter, and then I give a timeline, and I give some personal application and some personal lessons in each chapter. Folks have said it's been very helpful to them. So what we're offering today is Brother Phil's CD, or you can get a package deal. If you don't, I know many of you have the Revelation already. So many of you have already bought it. But if you haven't and you'd like to get a package deal, I promise you these will complement each other. This is audio you listen to. And mine, of course, is on paper, old-fashioned paper. So, but anyway, all right, Phil, let's keep on going here before we'll never get where I want to get, but we're going to try. I want to pick your brain a little more here. We get down. Let's skip some of these and go down to Revelation 5, because Revelation 5, you know this is true. The key to understanding the entire tribulation period is an understanding of that book in Revelation 5.
Amen.
I want to hear somebody else say what I've been saying for years. I want to hear you talk about it.
Well, if you look at Revelation and want to break down chapter 5, you need to go back to Genesis. The first book and the last book. There's a lot in common. The first 2 chapters of Genesis, the last 2 chapters of Revelation, there's no Satan in those books. So if you look, and there'll be 7 seals, right? God has on the throne 7 seals, all right? If you look in Genesis 3 at the fall, when God handed out the curses because of the fall, you know this, Eve got 2 curses, Adam got 2 curses, but Satan got 3 curses, all right? So 2, 2, and 3 is 7, all right? And Adam lost dominion. He lost the title deed. The New Testament says Satan is the little g god of this world.
Right.
He received dominion when Adam lost dominion. So at that fall, at that changing of ownership, let's say a lease, there's 7 curses handed down on the world, on the earth. In Revelation, Christ starts breaking those curses that's on the earth. There's 7 seals. That represents the 7 curses that hang over the
Wow.
earth right now.
And of course, Revelation 5:1, I saw in the right hand, this is after the rapture in
Yes.
chapter 4, verse 1.
Yes.
Behold, the door is open in heaven. In chapter 4, verse 1. We probably should talk about that because there's something
Do it.
about the door.
Do it.
The door is a door to another dimension, isn't it?
Yes.
And that caught up. We're gonna get to that a little bit later here. There's another place in Revelation uses the same words for the 2 witnesses.
Come up hither.
Come up hither.
Yes.
And the same thing is mentioned here in Revelation 4:1.
Yes.
John is told to come up hither.
That's right.
Same word. It's a rapture.
Yes.
And of course, the 2 witnesses basically go up in a rapture.
At the end of chapter 3, that's the last he has to tell the church. The very next verse is the church, come up hither.
Right. And,
Amen.
it happens to be that Laodicean church that
That's
thinks
right.
it's
That's
great.
the last age.
God wants to
Before the
God
door
wants
is
to
open.
vomit.
Yes.
And then you turn the page, Revelation 4:1.
Yes.
And after this, after what? After
After
that
the
last
church
church
age.
age.
That's right. Amen.
Behold, a door was open in heaven. I like that door. It's the same door that Stephen in Acts chapter 7, I call it a curtain there, but God pulled the curtain back and let Stephen see into heaven. He saw Jesus standing at the right hand of the Father, and then Stephen dies. And nobody else saw that, by the way. That's another dimension.
Right. Yep.
And I'd love to talk about those, but that'll get us off. That's a rabbit trail.
Yeah.
It's a good rabbit trail, though. And, Star Wars and Star Trek, some of them shows, they were kind of ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And because all of this sci-fi stuff, although a lot of it's kind of crazy, a lot of it has its roots in biblical truth. They just twist stuff as they go.
Yeah.
But there are dimensions, and heaven's another dimension.
Yeah, I like when he sees the throne. It says there's a rainbow around, or it says about the throne. So if you read, there's a crystal river coming from underneath the throne.
Yeah.
Crystal river as it was glass. So you have a mirror. So you have the rainbow around the throne. But to make it around, you'll see the reflection.
So it's a complete
It's a
circle
complete
of a
around.
rainbow.
And it says it's like the colored emerald. That's green. In Genesis, that's the color of life. So you have eternal life around the throne of God.
Yeah, amazing. And that's in the notes here I was going to ask you, but
Sure you were.
I decided to skip it and move on, but that's amazing stuff, though. And that's on the CD, right? What you
Oh,
did.
everything we're talking about.
Everything
that's
that's coming out of his mouth is on these CDs.
Yes, sir.
So, of course, the Revelation 4:1, tie that in with Revelation, is it 11, where the 2 witnesses are caught up?
Same wording.
Same
Yeah,
wording.
Exact same words.
It's a rapture. There's
Yes,
more than
sir.
one rapture,
Come up
obviously.
hither.
And and then you get to chapter 5, which the key to this whole thing, and you realize that after the rapture, there's the Father sitting on the throne with a book
right.
in his hand, in his right hand, sealed with 7 seals. That's the book that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about that in here extensively. About I talk about the kinsman redeemer, who's worthy to open the book and loose the 7 seals thereof.
Yes.
John actually begins to cry.
That's right.
What's he
'Cause
crying about?
There was no one found worthy, not on the earth, not under the earth, not in heaven, but behold a lamb.
Yeah, and he sees the Lamb. And
That's right.
The only person in the universe with the authority to take the book out of the right hand of the Father and start opening the seals is the kinsman redeemer,
The
Jesus
lamb
Christ.
as it had been slain. So
Yeah.
he sees a lamb with blood on it.
Yeah.
That's the blood of God.
And
That's
the-
a
and
sermon right in itself, the blood of God.
Yeah, and the only blood that's in heaven, by the way. Flesh and blood shall not inherit the
That's
kingdom of God.
Corinthians, yeah.
So-
the only man-made thing in heaven.
Is the scars, the nail
That's the
prints. in his
only
hand.
man-made thing in heaven.
Is
brother.
that in here?
I believe so.
Okay. If it ain't, it needs to be in. You need to do another one. Folks, we're talking to Brother Phil Hauser here, and we've only got a couple minutes left, but we're trying to cram as much as we can in here.
Amen.
And I love this guy. He's a dear friend, and he's a guy who's humble, and I believe he's a man that has let the Spirit of God help him understand some things, and that's why I wanted you to meet him. And let's see, maybe we got time to
You got
throw
one
another.
more, I bet.
We can throw a couple more things in here. Let me look here. Let's see. Revelation 6:4, the first war, hunger. That'll take too long. Let's skip to another one. Let's go to the silence in heaven. Revelation 8.
Okay.
Did you tell me there's no women in heaven?
I did not say that,
You did
brother.
not say that.
No. The silence in heaven reminds me of
Revelation 8:1.
a courtroom scene.
Okay.
All right? You've got the jury, the 12 jurors coming back in. If you're in a courtroom for murder, the place is packed. They've got cameras. You know, there's talking and whispering. But when those jurors come through that door and sit down, there is absolute silence. You can hear them. You can hear the weight of the people hit the chair. You can hear the shoes of the bailiff walk over. You can hear the paper crinkle with the verdict. You can hear him to the judge. The judge doesn't speak. The judge looks. He hands it back to the bailiff. The bailiff goes over. This is the silence in heaven before the final hammer is dropped.
Which is
on.
the second half, right?
That's exactly right. That's coming judgment. This is the wrath of God coming up, and it's silence in heaven.
And this is what I call in my Revelation study guide. I call it a pause in heaven. I say it's halftime, like on a football game. It's halftime.
Sure.
But boy, it's very descriptive the way you explain that in the courtroom setting.
That's right. Everybody's waiting for the verdict.
And you know, the judgment at the Great White Throne is in fact a courtroom setting.
Yes.
With the witnesses and everything.
We'll need the tears wiped from our eyes that day,
Yeah.
brother.
I believe the wiping away of the tears is the wiping away of memory of all
has to
lost
be. That's-
loved ones.
How would you live in heaven in total peace and total joy?
Knowing that mom or your son or
It'll be.
wife is in hell.
It'll have to take place.
He wipes
then,
away all
brother.
tears from their eyes. That's at the end of the 1,000-year
That's
kingdom
exactly
age.
right. That's at the end of all things.
You know, we've all preached sermons. Let's go in heaven, no tears in heaven. We all preach that.
Well, it says there's tears that are in heaven. It says that they're bottled
They're
up
in
in
his
your prayers.
bottles.
Yeah, they're
I've
kept.
got a sermon I preach, bottles in heaven.
Oh, there's tears in heaven.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're out of time, Brother Phil.
Okay.
And I want to tell you folks, get this if you can. And you're welcome to get the package deal or just the CD, whatever you'd like to get. But I think it'll help you. Listen, the Lord's coming back. The trumpet's going to sound.
Amen.
Jesus is coming. And if you're not born again, you'll be left behind. And some of the things we're reading about here you're going to experience these things. The time to get saved is before the trumpet sounds.
That's right.
It'll be too late for you then. And if you're not sure that you're saved, I hope you'll call the 800 number. Get somebody. I'd love to send you a gospel track or something or talk to you on the phone. But listen, until he comes, let's keep looking up.